research uses computational modeling to understand nanoscale and biophysical phenomenon. So the computer modeling uses a technique called molecular dynamic simulation. And so in that technique you start by defining a system of atoms, and so you have to specify how those atoms interact, and they might be part of some molecule like DNA or a protein. And then the simulation that you do is essentially solving Newton's equations of motion. So you do F equals ma for every single atom in your system. And so the output of this simulation is a trajectory of all the atoms in your system. And so you can employ different 3D graphics technologies to just kind of view the trajectory of your system and see how it interacts.
I'm an evolutionary psychologist, and so I do a lot of research on a few different topics from an evolutionary perspective. And by an evolutionary perspective, I mean I'm interested in the question, how did our species' ancestral past shape the design of the brain that we have today? So how did experiences that our species went through, be that an experience in a particular kind of environment where we had to forage or get food in a particular kind of way, or a particular kind of social environment where we experience the same kind of social situations over and over, how that shaped the kind of psychology that we have.
So for my entire career I've been interested in RNA. And you all know that that's the sort of middle molecule in the DNA makes RNA makes protein paradigm, but RNA does a lot more things than just serve as a message. So that's what we've been interested in for many, many years, and it's been a particularly good time to be interested in RNA because RNA keeps doing new things every year that people didn't think about the previous year. So it's really been very exciting. So what we'd like to do is figure out, what the functions of novel classes of RNA molecules are and what they're doing inside cells.
I think that a successful scientist should have a lot of passion and curiosity, because research is it's a lot of hard work, and sometimes it's a lot of frustrating work because usually your project isn't going all that well, and it takes a lot of time to kind of keep at it, and eventually you figure it out, and eventually it starts making sense. But in order to do science, I think you should really be passionate about the research that you're doing.
So there's a lot of necessary features that a scientist needs to have. One of the most important for a successful scientist is you have to be passionately interested in what you study. So being a scientist is often a very thankless task. You're going to be studying something that you're going to be doing work that might take years and years and years before you ever get any acknowledgement for it. And so if you're studying it only because you're interested in, the monetary reward of having the job or the acknowledgement you get from your peers or from publication, that kind of feedback is not going to happen fast enough to sustain you. You really need to be passionately interested. It has to be the case that you would be doing it even if nobody else was watching and nobody else was going to pay you for it.
For people, what you have to want to do research is you have to really love figuring out something that nobody else ever knew. And all those of us in research get a big kick out of doing an experiment, looking at the results, being the first person in the world or the universe to look at those results and say, oh, that tells us this or that tells us that. So one has to be really turned on by that sort of discovery. And aside from that, of course, it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a certain amount of brains, but not that much, to be turned on by research. So that's the most essential component, I think.